Raise your hand if you've been holding on to a past mistake or worries or something that there's a story, a narrative in your head that you just cannot let go of. And if this is you, then this episode might have something for you. So, hello, my name is Justine. I'm an intuitive life guide from the Philippines. And before I dive deep into our topic for today, I just want to give a short disclaimer that, whatever I'll be sharing in here is based from my personal experience. And if there are any mentions of, studies, concepts, theories, or anything like that, these are based from my own understanding and they are not thoroughly studied in depth. And also, I do not claim to be an expert or an authority on the topic or subject that we will be discussing. And really, this is not about, philosophical discussion or religious or theological or anything like that. My intention here is really, that through this offering, I hope that you will find something to help uplift, support, heal, encourage, refresh, empower, and disrupt your spirit, but in a good way. And my invitation for you is, to suspend judgment, right? Open your hearts to listen openly and receive what wants to be received. Take only what resonates, be curious with whatever disturb you, and leave the rest. All right. So I will do my best as well to stay open and be a clear channel for God, for the divine, because that's my prayer whenever I start this video recordings. And at the same time, I know that this will not appeal with everyone, especially if you're looking for a more like mental, logical, um, study, evidence based discussion. So this might not be a place for you. This is more heart intuitive, soul led sharing. And so just FYI. And if you're still here, thank you so much for listening up to this point. And I hope that you will receive something to help you in your journey by the end of this recording or this episode. All right. So, with that, let's start. So, we are in the Free to Be Me series. This is episode 3, and the title is To Be Free is to Forgive. So, a little backstory why I was inspired to do this episode this week is I just finished my 7-day prayer fasting retreat. And my focus for this retreat is really letting go and releasing what no longer serves me. Really focusing on doing rituals and contemplations around that. And of course, there's also my prayer petitions, my offerings, and ending it with a gratitude and celebration practice. So at the start of the year, actually even before that, I've been feeling um this shift within me, this energetic shift that it's time for me to move forward on another adventure. It's time for me to start a new chapter of my life. And that means that, the previous chapter has got to end. And I feel like, I've always, when I received that invitation, um, I'm so ready. I'm so ready to move forward, to let go of the past, to start my new chapter. Every time I feel like I'm like my energy is ready and I'm about to head out and explore the world and be engaged more in the external world, with engage with other people, I feel my energy going back in again. And I'm not totally in a hermit mode, but I'm still in that contemplative stage where I don't feel like listening or receiving voices from other people, meaning that it's really tuning in to the wisdom within and just having that conversation between me, between God, my spirit, my intuition, my higher self, and being led to very specific and very few um mentors in my life right now. And I recognize that the people that I follow before, I don't resonate with them anymore. It's more of a slowing down and more of a really surrendered life. I feel like that's my new chapter. Well, this year, really the theme of my 2024 is radical surrender. It's about my wild unknown chapter, my wild unknown adventure. And truly enough, we're in the second half of the year and I really don't know what is happening. Like it's really the wild unknown. Although I expected for me to be more out there in the world and really exploring different things. But again, like I said, every time I'm getting ready to go out, my energy pulls back in. And so I said, you know what, Lord, I feel like this second, okay, I'm giving the first half of the year, the transition period, that grace period, that in between, wherein the chapter has already ended and the new chapter is beginning, but you're still getting a feel of the new chapter, what it is all about, right? Of course, some people are able to dive right in and that's their process. And there were points in my life where I also did that. Like I really just jumped in and, you know, come high, come whatever. Like I'm I'm going in. I'm full all in 100%. Let's do this. But this time it feels like a slower process, which is again like it fits, right? Because this is about slowing down and really for me personally it's going against the rhythm of society, right? And tuning in to the natural rhythm and flow of life, of the divine and of my own timing as well, right? That's more yin energy. But I also feel this, like there's a balancing act between the yin and the yang, the feminine and the masculine, the surrender and taking control, the resting and the taking aligned, inspired, alive actions. So it's really a beautiful balancing act. So anyway, so that's the inspiration for this. I want to really I feel like this is the culmination of that releasing, which is now that I've done the 7-day retreat, I really felt like okay, like whew, I really let it go. Like this is really I can really feel that this is a new chapter. And what that entails, I don't know. Which is exciting and fun and also exciting and fun. Exhilarating is a word that's coming up. So anyway, we're talking about free to be me, and I realized that sometimes, maybe often, if not always, we are the ones really holding ourselves back to becoming truly free, you know. And how are we doing this? We're carrying our baggages. We're carrying and we're holding on and we don't want to let go of our baggages. And by baggages, I mean, the blame, the anger, the guilt, the greed, attachments, grief. envy, shame. And this could be for others, but more so towards ourselves. You know, I don't know about you, but even if I feel like it's the fault of other people, other people have a hand in something not going wrong, or sorry, something not going right, but I still find myself thinking, this is my fault somehow, some way. Especially when I was in my darkest year, like I always put the blame on myself. Like I feel like everything going wrong is my fault some way, somehow. And it really puts a toll on our spirit, right? And sometimes if you were used to that, like instant blaming yourself, criticizing yourself, taking on those feelings of, again, guilt, shame, and anger towards others, but really maybe there's anger towards ourselves, and the attachments that we're holding on to, right? Because somehow we feel like, I mean, this is a deeper discussion, but sometimes when we're attached to something, it's because we feel like we need whatever that is to feel complete, to feel worthy, right? I mean, I'm not saying for everything, but for some, right? And so, what am I saying? And so when we're holding on to that and we're used to that, sometimes we just becomes an automatic response, right? We don't even think about it. It just becomes a natural way of being for us. And all the more that we're taking on this heavy, dense energy, and we're wondering why we're getting sick, right? Why we're feeling all this stress in our body. I mean, stress is a natural part of life, but if you are accumulating small stresses in your days and you're holding on to them, right? You're not letting them go, then it will really build up until it becomes chronic, until it becomes it manifests in your body through sickness and all that, right? And sometimes we're even projecting to other people, right? Whatever we are feeling, we're projecting to others. Like I said before, like we think that we are, whatever anger, greed, envy we're feeling towards another person. My invitation is, take a look at yourself, right? Put the mirror in front of yourself and see what could be about this situation, about this person that I'm feeling anger towards. And is there something about this that I'm feeling really towards myself, right? Again, I'm not saying that that is the case for everything, but just something for you to explore if you're feeling up to it, right? And so, one of the things that we can really do to release and to fully let go of these packages is to really forgive ourselves, right? When we forgive ourselves, that is the key to freeing ourselves so that we can be in our fullest and highest expression. Of course, easier said than done, right? I mean, how do we really forgive ourselves, right? And why do we need to forgive ourselves? Why not other people, right? Such an interesting concept. But for me personally, I realized that when I am forgiving myself, I am creating that space for others so that I can forgive them as well. And actually, when I really tune in, because forgiveness, it's also connected. It comes with loving ourselves, being compassionate towards ourselves. They all come together. And when I'm holding that space and able to tune in to love, I realize that there is really nothing to forgive in others, especially, because even though they're doing something not good, hurtful, right? We, at least I, sorry, I'll like, I'll speak from my experience. There's that deep inner knowing that this person is doing this because of one reason or another. Perhaps they've become hurt as well, right? And now they're doing something hurtful towards another person. Maybe they just don't have that awareness yet. And that's okay because you recognize that I recognize that we are all in this world and we're learning our own curriculum. And not everyone can be in the same level of awareness or consciousness that we are in. And this is not about saying that, oh, I'm more aware, I'm more conscious than others. No, it's just really recognizing without judgment that we are each in our own journey, right? And we experience the world based on the lenses that we're wearing, right? And some people are they have different experiences. They have different values, they have different, like background and belief and programming. And it's not a fault on their own. I mean, yes, we have that responsibility to grow and to evolve ourselves, right? To take on that journey. But there's also the part of like we are taking on the stories, the narratives, the programming of the world, of the people who have been influencing us since birth, right? There are a lot of factors. And if we truly understand this, then we become more understanding, or at least we can empathize, right? And I feel like we can really do that if we learn to give that to ourselves first, because we experience firsthand the pain of going through that, that tug of war within, right? The growth process, the painful growth process. At least that's from my experience. um, but yeah, so moving forward about the topic of forgiveness, it's how do we forgive ourselves? I mean, I don't have like the how to exactly, but here's what I come to realize, right? That first and foremost, it is a choice, right? We may not feel like forgiving ourselves or others, but we can choose to. And forgiveness, it doesn't mean that, oh, I have decided to forgive, then we're forgiven. It's a process. And sometimes it's a lifelong process, right? We go through our own timing, our own pacing. And sometimes there's a lot of digging, uncovering, going deep that one has to go through to really allow themselves and to receive that forgiveness. But we can choose, because when we choose, then it will shift something within us, right? And we can take more intentional practices that will help us to get to that point of feeling that, oh, I have really forgiven myself. I have really forgiven others, right? And more importantly, it is a grace. It is a grace from God. We don't really, eh, again, like I don't want to go like philosophical or religious or whatever here, but I don't have the words to explain it, but if I can just like the feeling of, how it's like an embrace. It's like God embracing you in your ugliest, most hideous form. No matter what you have done, what how you think, how bad you are, like there's still His love, His grace given to us unconditionally. And I feel like it's available to us, right? It's always been available to us. But when we choose, there's a choice. That's when we allow Him to work through us, right? It's like, you know, air is all around us, right? But if you don't take that inhale and exhale, then it will not come in. Of course, it's a natural process, right? But sometimes when you're like feeling that shortness of breath, or you're feeling that anxiety, or you're feeling like, whatever is blocking your breath way, like you really have to intentionally take that breath, right? So I feel like it's like that. I hope it's a good enough metaphor. But anyway, so yeah. Is it metaphor or analogy? Eh, anyway, so yeah, so it's a choice, it's a grace. And more recently, it's really about surrendering, because when we surrender, it's like, again, that's why it's so difficult to give like a how to forgive ourselves, because it's not really about, like specific action steps. But I feel, for me personally, when I surrender, I receive the guidance on how I can rebuild my relationship with myself, right? And how I can, like, where can I turn my attention so that I can receive a message that will resonate deep within my soul, that will just click, and it will open me up more into receiving more grace, into receiving and allowing that forgiveness in my life. And then until one day, you just feel lighter, right? You feel lighter. And at the same time, it's surrendering, because, again, we're talking about things that we are holding on to. And because we are holding on to, we also have to be more intentional in opening our fingers, our palms, our hands, so that we can let it go, right? We have to do that. So it's both what we have control over and what we don't have control over. We receive guidance on what we need to do. I feel like when we're surrendering, right? We're not just, okay, Lord, I surrender and then that's it. We're not doing anything anymore. No, right? We take those, again, inspired, aligned, alive action steps, right? Bit by bit, slowly by slowly. So yeah, and again, like, when we forgive ourselves, we free ourselves, right? We feel that lightness, that openness. And suddenly we are creating space for more new energy, more loving energy, more inspiring energy to come into our lives. And I just have to give a quick caution that, when we forgive, it doesn't mean that we will forget, right? This is not forgive and forget. We forgive, meaning that we free ourselves and we free the other person, but we are keeping the lessons, at least the lessons and the circumstances, so that we can be more um, aware for next time, right? We know better. So when we recognize, let's say, a pattern, right? That, oh, there's something here that will cause me to feel more anger, for example, then we can recognize it and we can stop and shift our reaction, how we respond, how we think, right? And how we feel, so that we don't end up doing something that will regret, or something that will make us do something not so good. right? To avoid mistakes, to avoid the worry, the anxiety, and all that. It is also not about denying or minimizing whatever we are feeling, right? Whatever we're feeling or whatever um the situation, the experience, right? Whatever our experience is. It's not about giving up our power, right? We still hold the power to choose how we move forward. And it's not about, again, it's not about holding on to something, meaning that, okay, I forgive you, but you're still holding on to the anger. You're still holding on to the shame. You're still holding on to the guilt. Again, having said that, it takes a process and sometimes it takes a long time to fully let go, and that's okay. As long as you're being conscious, right? You're putting it in in your awareness that I'm choosing to let this go, even though I may not be ready and I may not be even willing to let this go yet. I'm choosing to give myself grace and surrender this so that God can move through me. And eventually I can fully let this go and forgive myself, forgive others, right? And it's not about condoning, right? We're not accepting or allowing something to continue, right? Especially if it is harmful for us. But we can forgive, we can let them go. So what happens is that we're not condoning the action. We're saying like we're putting a boundary, right? This is what is acceptable. This is not what's acceptable, right? And I'm putting my foot down, right? Um, but we're good. You can continue on with your life. I will continue on my life. Or if this is about you, like we will continue on moving forward, right? But we will not be doing this anymore. All right. We can continue this, but not this, right? And this is not about taking the moral high ground. Like, oh, I'm so good. I forgive you, but I'm this high and mighty. I'm better than you. Like I it's like you're taking something over someone's head. Something like that. Um and it's not about this for that. So I forgive you. So now you have to do this, right? Especially if this is for another person, right? Or even if it's yourself, like I forgive you, but you know, you have to, I don't know, punish yourself first and whatever. So yeah, I hope that's clear. Anyway, so those are some of the cautions that just something for us to remember what forgiveness is and what forgiveness is not. And yeah. So really it's trying to think like what else. If there's one thing it's really about, we learn from the situation, right? We learn and then we shift how we see it, right? And we shift our mindset from whatever we have learned about the situation so that we can do better, respond better, think better, feel better, right? And when we're able to do that, it's also a confirmation of the growth that is happening. And when we're shifting our way of being, I feel like that's opening ourselves up to, oh, I can see that you're really serious about changing, right? And we're growing and it's easier for us to really forgive ourselves versus we say that we want to forgive ourselves, but we're still continuing whatever the action is. So we're just stuck. in that, right? We haven't learned the lesson. So, yeah, something to keep in mind as well. Ah, so with that, for the next steps, something for you to reflect on is where are you being hard on yourself, and in what ways are you holding yourself back, or where are you still holding on to, and what could be the underlying reason why you're holding yourself back, or why you're holding on to something. And just having that awareness, I feel like will shift something within you that will help you to be on your way to forgiving yourself and loving yourself more and being more compassionate. Because this is not about banishing our shadows, it's about going in our darkness, meeting our darkness or shadows, looking at what doesn't feel good, whatever is ugly and not so good in us, whatever we don't like about ourselves, and embracing those parts of ourselves. When we can do that, that unlocks the forgiveness process, I feel like. Because it's when we cannot accept those ugly bits in ourselves, that's what makes it difficult. Again, like this is just very, it's not even like there's still a lot of things to be discussed here, but for now, I leave the topic, the discussion here, the sharing, I mean, here, and I hope that this will serve you in some way, shape, or form. Thank you so much. Peace, love, and light.